Hi, welcome to April 20th, Math 8, Part 2. And the key idea for today, I wanted to share first the vocabulary. So a prism. A prism is a polyhedron that has two parallel identical bases, and the lateral faces are parallelograms. A pyramid, the definition, is a polyhedron that has one base, and the lateral faces are triangles. And so, for example, you have a triangular prism or a rectangular pyramid. The shape of the base tells the name of the prism or the pyramid. And so our key idea is to take a picture again of our textbook. The definition for prism, as you see, and pyramid are there, and you see the examples of a triangular prism and a rectangular pyramid. All right, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to have you watch the rest of Anywhere Math. So I'm going to have you watch the rest of this piece that will address what we're doing today and as well as Tuesday.
Next, we're going to talk about a couple very common polyhedrons. And the first is a prism. Okay. A prism is a polyhedron that has two identical parallel bases. Okay? And we're not talking about base like two-dimensional, like when you find the area of a parallelogram and it's base times height. We're talking about sides or faces as the bases. So, for example, this is a prism. It is a triangular prism. And the reason it's a triangular prism is because the bases are triangles. You name the prism after the base. So right here, there's a triangle. Here's another identical triangle, and they are both parallel with each other, okay? Which is why it's called a triangular prism. The way I like to think of prisms as, think of the base as whatever shape is being stretched, okay? So it's like we've got a triangle here, and I take that triangle and I stretch it out to make a prism. Now, one other thing to know about prisms is that these faces in between the bases are always going to be parallelograms, and we call them lateral faces. Okay, so these faces in between the bases are lateral faces. So here's a triangular prism. Here's another example of a triangular prism, right? It's smaller, but same thing. You got a triangle and you're stretching it out to make a prism. Here, you could call this a square prism. Here's a square, an identical square that's parallel. Another prism, and notice the lateral faces are still parallelograms. They're rectangles, but rectangles are parallelograms, so that's okay. These are prisms. The next polyhedron we're going to talk about is a pyramid. Now, I'm sure all of you know pyramids, you know, like the pyramids in Egypt and stuff, but let's get technical about it. A pyramid, unlike a prism, only has one base. So this base is a square, which means we call this a square pyramid. If you had a pyramid like this, well, the base here is a triangle. So this is not a square pyramid, it's a triangular pyramid. So you name the pyramid after whatever shape the base is. Okay. Now, if we look at these pyramids, the lateral faces, these here and here, they're not parallelograms like they are in prisms. Instead, they're always going to be triangles. Okay, so here are pyramids. Okay, example 2. Draw a rectangular prism. Now, it's a rectangular prism, which means the bases need to be rectangles. So to draw it, you need two identical rectangles. So I'm going to start with the first one. Next step, you just go up and over a little bit to draw your second and try to make it identical to this. At this point, all you need to do is connect the corresponding angles. So top left, I connect with top left, like that. Bottom left with bottom left, top right with top right, and bottom right with bottom right. So now you can start to see it looks 3D, like a rectangular prism. Last thing is you have to make the lines that you can't see, we call those the hidden lines, you make those dashed. So this is where you need a pencil. So I'm just going to erase. That's going to be a hidden line because I wouldn't be able to see it looking at the prism from the front. That would also be hidden. And so would that one. So that is the rectangular prism. Let's try one more. Okay, part B, draw a triangular pyramid. Triangular pyramid means the base is going to be a triangle, so I'm going to start with that. And then remember, all of the sides come up to a point, come up to a vertex, so you put a point up here and just simply connect each of those vertices up to that point, like that. And then you got to make your hidden lines. So I'm going to make it as this face here is going to be the front, so these are going to be all hidden. Okay, and that is your triangular pyramid. Now, real quick, if you wanted to do a square pyramid, you got to be careful because if you do the same technique and draw a square point and then up here, you're going to look at that and say, that looks really weird, right? Well, the trick is to not draw a square. Make it look more like a parallelogram, kind of slanted. So if you draw it like that, then you put your point up there. Maybe I want to go over a little bit so I can see that that line and that line are different. Connect those, and then make your hidden lines. Hopefully that looks a little better, right? That definitely looks better than the other one. Let's try one more example. All right, here's our last example. Draw the front, side, and top views of the solid. So we're going to do this triangular prism. So the front view is, if it's sitting like this, what does it look like coming from the front? Well, when we're drawing these views, you can't see 3D. So when we draw it, it's just going to be a 2D shape. So from the front, all you see is this bottom line and that top, and then it just looks like a straight line coming down. We can't draw it angled like we know it is. It's just coming straight down. So the front view, make sure you label each of these. Front view would look just like a rectangle. There's my front view. Next, the side view. Again, well, that would be coming from the side. Well, we know the side of this triangular prism is a triangle here. That's one of those bases. So side view is just a little triangle. And keep in mind, these heights here should be the same, right? Okay. So keep that in mind when you're making your drawing. It wouldn't make sense to draw a huge triangle if that was my front view. And finally, the top. What does it look like when you look at this figure from the very top, straight down? So if I turn it and you look, well, it's going to look like a rectangle with this line right in the middle, okay, for that top edge. So that's your top view. So you're going to have another rectangle, but that's going to have that line going right through the middle. Here's some more to try on your own.
Okay, so what I'd like you to do now is get a paper and a pencil, and you can follow along with me. After we are finished with this, you can rewind and come back to this. But what I'd like you to do is for letter A is to draw a rectangular prism. Step 1, draw identical rectangular bases. Step 2, connect corresponding vertices. And then step 3, change any hidden lines to dashed lines. So if you're using a pencil, you'll be able to do this. And then letter B, draw a triangular pyramid. Step 1, draw a triangular base and a point. Step 2, connect the vertices of the triangle to the point. Step 3, change any hidden lines to dashed lines. And again, you can do that through using a pencil and eraser. So for today, I would like you to, again, you can try going into IXL and going into grade 8 math, letter S, 3-dimensional figures, parts of a 3-dimensional figure, and again, try your best with everything that you're doing. You can rewind this if you need to, especially when you're drawing your different views. If you have any questions, of course, you can email me, or if you have, again, just other questions, please feel free to reach out. And I will end for right now. I will be back again soon. Thank you. Have a good day.